All right. Well, I will go ahead and get started. And I appreciate everyone for joining. I hope everyone has had a fantastic day. It's been a ton of fun. Like I said, I learned a lot and has really enjoyed reconnecting with some of the current shellers as well as alumni that were in our cohort and beyond. My name is Abb Kapoor. I'm the COO and co-founder of a UMD startup, Curu. Uh, for some context, Curu is a lead recovery and customer engagement platform that provides financial institutions data-driven insights to recover lost leads and increase the lifetime value of their clients. So with over $100 billion lost annually on rejected lead, our white label platform and approval dashboard enables lenders to expand their total available market, better service their existing members, and reduce their customer acquisition costs by showing applicants and existing account holders steps they can take in order to reach their financial goals. So before I get started, I wanted to, again, thank Alex, the Startup Shell organization, and the entire UMD innovation community for having me today, and also putting up with mine and my co-founder's unconventional path to building a startup. I remember literally, I think it was December 1st, 2016, when we were presenting a really early beta of Curu at our Shell Expo. So it's been an absolute amazing journey. And really grateful for all the people that we've met, both at Startup Shell and just in UMD in general, and being a part of that. So I'll go ahead and get started. So I met my co-founder, David Potter, as a randomly assigned freshman year roommate through BSE Scholars. We were living in a flex triple at Cambridge Hall before it got renovated. So there was no air conditioning. I don't even think our door worked, and it was really cramped. So we were looking to get off as soon and as quickly as possible. While at UMD, I studied electrical engineering through the Clark School and was also pursuing a minor in tech entrepreneurship. I would have been a 2018 graduate, but decided to drop out in 2017 to pursue Curu full time. During our tenure at UMD, we were fortunate enough to be a part of some of the greatest entrepreneurship communities in the world, in my opinion, including Startup Shell, obviously, Hinman CEOs, Chirp Startup, and then we were in the alumni class for the Pitch Stigman competition participants. So to get a little bit deeper into this story, the story starts, actually, let me switch this slide. So the story starts, again, when David and I had met each other as randomly assigned roommates at Cambridge Hall our freshman year, and we were focused on living off campus. When we applied for off-campus housing, we were pretty optimistic that we were gonna be fine. But because we didn't have established credit, we ended up getting rejections across the board. So along with that, our parents couldn't co-sign because they had poor credit. So we were stuck between a rock and a hard place. During that summer leading into our sophomore year, we ended up building credit ourselves. We signed up for student credit cards with like a $300 limit at the local CQ. And then from there, we ended up falling in love with how much we hated credit. It seemed to be a system that worked against the people that needed it most and was profiting off of people's financial illiteracy. So transparently, we knew we wanted to disrupt the industry, but we had absolutely no idea how. So what we started doing was just becoming board certified credit score consultants. And our goal originally was just to start working with students and helping them better understand the importance of starting to build credit, just leveraging our story as an example. That ended up leading us to the Digman Center, where we started going to Digman Fridays and evaluating how we could add some tech around what we were already doing in person. And that really taught us the lean principles that inevitably developed our first MVP of the product. So by the end of our second year, we had a pretty clear understanding of the credit landscape, the total addressable market. We had a rough idea of our target persona. And essentially, we had about 15 if not much more iterations of the business model canvas. And so we were leveraging a ton of customer discovery, a ton of client interviews, people just going on our beta and having no idea what to do. And so by the end of 2016, coming into 2017, we took what we had learned and applied for Pitch Digman. And we were fortunate enough to get accepted to be at least in the semifinals. And so we pitched at Pitch Digman. We were competing against a bunch of companies that had significantly more traction and revenue than we did. But to our surprise, we were able to come out of Pitch Digman semifinals and make it to finals. In between, again, we were competing with some of the best startups at UMD, including like Gravity Tails and Course Hunter, that had a lot more traction than we did. And so we were pretty nervous that we just weren't going to be able to compete. And so we were speaking to one of our mentors at the time, Bob London, and he, was like, you guys maybe want to consider dropping out. And we were, right on the cusp of doing that. And I think it was a conversation with Chris Raycamp that really kept us in it. And we did participate. We ended up participating in Pitch Digman finals and ended up winning, to our surprise. The feedback that we got was we had a clear vision, an abundance of passion that stood out compared to the other participants. And that in itself was validation for us to continue and move to the next stage. So at the end of that same semester, we ended up dropping out of UMD to pursue Curu full time. We moved down to Charlotte, North Carolina to participate in our first non-school sponsored accelerator, Queen City FinTech. During the program, that's where we launched our first beta on the iOS App Store. Naively, we expected millions of users to just flock to the app, and we were going to grow like crazy, but that didn't happen at all. We were a bootstrap company competing in a pretty oversaturated space with companies like Credit Karma, Mint, NerdWallet, Credit Sesame that were able to spend hundreds of millions of dollars on acquiring customers, and we had no budget. We weren't funded. So between 2018 and 2019, we made tons of product iterations as well as experimented with dozens of, I would just call them guerrilla marketing tactics. And we got to around 20,000 users organically without actually having a clear marketing budget. Come the summer of 2019, transparently, we were like close to running out of cash. We weren't really sure the direction that we were going in. And we also, kind of our biggest challenge is we recognized that our CAC to CLTV ratio was not sustainable. So, and we didn't have a clear product market fit. So we ended up taking a look at our user data and saw a really interesting trend that ended up creating the direction of the Curu moving forward. And that was that users coming from a referral, like a credit retailer, such as a bank, a credit union, a car dealership, was much more engaged than a user coming either organically or through other means. So after speaking to some of those channel partners and learning about their experience, we found out that they ended up loving our service and they were thrilled that they were able to offer rejected applicants a solution. And so that sparked a light bulb, and we decided to kind of explore that a little bit further. Around that time, we were in our second round interview for Techstars. And so we weren't sure if we were going to pitch the consumer application, pitch kind of this enterprise idea that we had, or a hybrid in between. So we kind of stuck in between, and the feedback that we got from Techstars was there's a major opportunity here. So we ended up getting into Techstars at the Q4 of 2019, and on that same exact day, we ended up confirming an investment from FIS, which was our first strategic corporate partner. And so through Techstars and the FIS client network, we went back to our lean startup roots and did a massive amount of customer discovery around the enterprise platform, leveraging our consumer solutions, data, metrics, and just like learnings. From there, we got the cookie monster effect that we were praying for when going direct to consumer. And we recognized that there was a massive opportunity because lenders and financial institutions were rejecting a majority of the applicants that were coming through, and they were wasting hundreds of millions of dollars on that customer acquisition. And it was just a lose-lose. I mean, it was a poor experience for customers, and it was a poor experience for the financial institution. And they didn't have the means to be able to service that at scale. So basically at the end of 2019, we formalized the pivot. We removed Curu from the App Store. We moved our company out to Denver after we had gone through Techstars in Denver. And then we went B2B as a SaaS lead recovery platform for lenders. Around that time as well, we were able to close an oversubscribed pre-seed round. So we did $600,000 to really help us nail that pivot. Coming into 2020, we had a new platform, a few pilots, and an actual runway. Before we were trying to get cash on a month-to-month basis. So at that time, we actually had a runway. And we had been working with a partner from Vestigo Ventures, which is a fintech firm based about a year and a half at that point. And he had really seen both David and I grow as student entrepreneurs into actual founders that were able to have a venture-backed business. And he was fundamental in our pivot for the enterprise solution. And so he reached out to us at the earlier side of 2020, asking us to preempt a seed round. At first, we were a little bit skeptical. We had gotten horror stories. Michael Pratt from Hinman mentioned, don't raise too much capital. But so I ended up reaching back out to him and was like, hey, like we have this offer on our table. Like, what do you think? He validated it as like a good opportunity. So we ended up moving forward with it. And come 2 weeks pre, the US cutting off Europe and the NBA season ending because of COVID, we got a term sheet in place. So we weren't sure pre-COVID if we were going to raise. I mean, there was so much uncertainty in the market, and a lot of VCs were pulling back, deploying capital to new investments and really focusing on investing solely on existing portfolios. But our lead was like, hey, let's just see what happens. And fortunately enough, on May 7th, we were able to close a $3 million seed round. Raising money during COVID was hands down one of the most challenging experiences of my life. Being a minority college dropout founder with no professional experience, that slope is already pretty steep. With COVID, it added some oil on that slope. But through our network and what we had learned through all of our courses in Digman, as well as all of the community that we had built there, we were able to pull it off. And so fortunately, also, we were very selective about the investors that we put into our pre-seed round, and all the institutional investors, even though they had no idea how the market was going to change, were confident in being able to invest in the opportunity and followed on using pro rata. The funny part about that is I went home when COVID kind of started, all the news started picking up. And so that entire round was raised in my parents' basement, which I thought was pretty funny. So right now, we're focusing on working with financial institutions at whatever capacity. The financial institution strategy has changed a lot since 2019 because of COVID. Before, there was almost an unlimited amount of capital spent on customer acquisition and growing accounts, whereas now there's a major focus on preventing loan loss. So we built a sister product to work with existing clients to help improve bankability as well. And that's been going well with the few pilots that we have running. So I guess to wrap it all up, although I don't officially have a degree from UMD, we would not be where we are without the community and the network that we established in College Park. There are so many rich and engaged organizations and communities around campus, like Startup Shell, like Digman, like Hinman, like the Academy of Innovation. The list literally goes on and on and on. I'm excited to see UMD continue to make the top 10 schools. I mean, apparently today we hit 6. And I believe in this university and its professors and its students and its alumni so much. I expect us to be at the top of that list in the coming years. So to kind of wrap it out with my time, I had some key takeaways from my experience coming from Startup Shell, leaving UMD, and being able to build a venture-backed business. Be persistent, stay committed, and don't stop learning. There's a lot of signals and events that will happen for anyone, no matter how great the idea is or how big of a problem it is, that will help deteriorate them away from the actual entrepreneurship journey. And so I recommend just leveraging every obstacle as an opportunity to learn and don't stop trying. I think it was just the sheer persistence that got us to where we are. Lean on your network. It's not what you know, it's who you know. Again, David and I didn't have a network leaving school. And so we relied on Digman to make connections. We relied on the accelerators we went through to make connections. And they made all the difference, not immediately, but towards the end when we were able to work with that network. And lastly, if you want to build a company, you have to be obsessed with the problem. I'm sure all the entrepreneurs that are watching this recognize the challenges. It's a huge uphill battle. It's pretty lonely. But the thing that should keep you motivated every day is there's a problem that you want to eradicate from the world. So I hope this has been helpful. I really enjoyed being able to speak and revisit and reconnect with a lot of my Shellers and alumni. And I will also provide my contact information if I can be helpful. And I guess I'll leave the last few minutes for questions if anyone has any questions. And sorry, I just gotta pull it up. But yeah, I mean, if there are any questions, definitely connect with me on LinkedIn, reach out on through email if I can be helpful, or if there's anything that I didn't necessarily get to that you are curious on, always willing to connect with fellow Terps. So thank you for the time. Thank you, Alex. And again, Startup Shell for having me today, and go Terps.